members to 10, the Entrepreneurs Network. I trust you all are comfortable and ready to begin today's meeting. I'm Rahul Amrute, Chairman, shouldering the responsibility of my current tenure. In my task, I'm ably supported by Manoj Tehliani, the Secretary, Mangesh Patole, the Relationship Manager, and Ram Kumar, who heads our social media management. 10, the Entrepreneurs Network is a not-for-profit organization. The single-minded focus of 10 is to help entrepreneurs from different business fields to come together and succeed. To know more about 10, I would kindly request Mangesh to play a short AV, which will give the participants a fair idea what 10 is all about. Yeah.
Okay. Can you see the screen, Rahul?
Yes. Yeah. We can.
Maharashtra's major industrial town, fastest growing and slated to be the most happening commercial hub. Over the last decade, Thane has grown from a small suburban town to a large self-sustaining metropolis. Proximity to the financial capital of the country has extended ample opportunities to Thane for becoming the richest district in Maharashtra, with potent factors like well-planned infrastructure and low cost of operation. With growing opportunities and upcoming business ventures comes the growing need for business networking to learn, to explore, to connect, and to share avenues for mutual growth. Welcome to the Entrepreneurs Network, popularly known as 10. Established in 2010 with the intent of providing a platform for entrepreneurs to share their experience, to learn, and to educate fellow entrepreneurs, along with generating business opportunities for mutual growth. Our motto: connect, breakthrough, and prosper.
In 2009, basically, I was totally confined to the four walls of my own retail outlet. Probably that time I was feeling the need to get out of those binded four walls. So there was a business networking group. I joined that, and after 1.5 years, basically there was some disconnect with that particular group. So we wanted to start something which was more Indianized. We wanted to do something to build a community of entrepreneurs. And in 2010, we started this 10 Entrepreneurs Network.
10 is a close-knit community of different business verticals across industries.
10 ने मुझे अभी जो फ़ायदा मिला है, काफ़ी फ़ायदा मिला है. बिजनेस अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ भी मुझे काफ़ी मिली है 2009 से. ग्रोथ काफ़ी हुआ है.
I love 10 as a network because it is very different from the other business networks what you see, and it has helped me a lot in my overall development for my business, for my relations.
And what I found, people around us are all wanted to grow in their business and help the society around, and I am so happy to join the 10.
After coming here, I found a different friendship, a different support system.
10 members contribute connections, ideas, and time to help 10 grow. Members are rewarded with training workshops, insights, network, and camaraderie offered by other like-minded entrepreneurs. They meet alternate Wednesdays from 7:15 a.m. to 9:45 a.m.
What I liked about 10 is more of a kind of a learning platform. So I learned a lot from 10, through different sessions, different workshops.
What I like about 10 is core functionality, which is continuous learning for entrepreneurs. That is, we can say it is a core function of 10 on which it operates.
10 has been extremely beneficial to me in enhancing my personality and making me equipped to face the challenges as an entrepreneur.
Connecting, breakthrough, and prosper, which is the mantra of 10, is something which I was seeking for in my business career.
10 conducts activities such as 10 Connect session, open minds, outdoor meetings, and annual conclave. 10 Connect session provides a robust platform to its members for learning and sharing experiences, one-on-one interaction, apart from addresses by internal and esteemed guest speakers. 10 Engagement also extends to events such as Open Minds, where established entrepreneurs and business owners are invited to share their life lessons and growth stories while interacting with live audience. It's an event that Thaneites eagerly wait for. Outdoor meetings are fun coupled with learning. It aims at increasing member bonding and interactions beyond regular meetings. It includes site visits, visiting fellow members' workplace, and short outings which are extremely high on fun quotient.
Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, they are exactly following that. That really brings me to here.
Since inception, 10 members have transacted more than 275 crores of business with its members and connects beyond 10 as we move ahead in this path of connecting for mutual growth. We look forward to more heads, more hands, and more hearts to come together. We welcome you to attend the 10 Connect session, to experience entrepreneurial energy, creativity, and motivation.
Let's give our classic 10 clap to 10, which goes 1, 2, 1, 2, 3 twice.
10. The Entrepreneurs Network. Connect, breakthrough, prosper.
Yeah.
Over to you.
Thanks, Manoj. Yeah, thanks, Manoj. I would kindly request our Secretary Manoj Teliani to introduce our speakers for the day, Srishti and Vanshaj. Over to you, Manoj. Manoj, unmute yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, Ram, thank you. Thank you, Rahul.
Yeah.
Good morning, friends. I welcome you all for our today's 10 session on protect and monetize your brand. There is a famous quote by Jeff Bezos who says a brand for a company is like a reputation for a person. You earn reputation by trying to do hard things well. Protecting your brand and monetizing your brand are thus very important for every business. For today's session, we have with us Ms. Srishti Singhania and Mr. Vanshaj Mehta, Senior Associates at Singhania and Company, a reputed South Mumbai law firm. They will be sharing with us on importance of branding, how to leverage your brand, how to use your unique brand in order to prevent competition from copying your products and capitalizing on your success. Given the paucity of time, they will be covering trademark laws in detail, and we intend to take up copyright and patent laws in ensuing session thereafter. So friends, please welcome Ms. Srishti Singhania and Mr. Vanshaj Mehta with a round of applause. Thank you. Srishti, please, and Vanshaj, welcome.
Yeah, so thank you 10 Connect to give us this opportunity to speak to everyone. And also thank you to all the attendees who've taken out time on a Saturday morning to attend this session. So today, before we start, I'll just quickly tell you as to what are the questions that we are going to cover in this session. The first question is that why is it important to protect your brand, right? That's the very important question to understand. Second is that what are the legal mistakes many business owners make while choosing their brand name? Third is what are the ways of protecting your brand? There are very different ways of protecting your brand. And the fourth and the most important is, how can I actually monetize my brand? All the hard work that I have put in my business, all the reputation that I have earned during my business, how can I monetize it? So this session is going to be very interactive, and we request everyone to answer our questions either in chat box or to unmute themselves and answer the questions. The more you interact, the more you will learn from this session. Just give me a minute to share my presentation. Okay. So my first question to everyone is that which can will you buy? Will you buy the can with a Coca-Cola, or will you buy the empty can with no label? And why will you buy Coca-Cola? Anybody? It's a very, very easy question.
We have given permission to participants to unmute themselves, but please remember to mute yourself once you answered.
Because it's a brand, it's already established as one of the premium brands.
So what does it come? What do you mean by brand? Like,
It's a Coca-Cola. It's established name. It's registered. It's a trademark. There's a certain what do you say? It's a seal that it's a trusted brand. There's ISO number. There's a hygiene thing. Everything is for QC and everything is done rightly well.
That's correct. So it's when you think of Coca-Cola or any brand, as you said, you can identify who is the business owner, right? You know it's an established company. It assures you trust and quality, right? But apart from these factors, it's important to understand that branding is actually helping companies have a competitive edge and differentiate themselves from different brands, right? Why do we buy Coca-Cola? Why not Pepsi? Because maybe Coca-Cola has a particular taste that we like and Pepsi is perhaps more sweetened, right?
Yeah.
And also, so brands are actually helping companies give a very competitive edge. So it's important that why it's important to establish and protect your brand so that your business can get become a differentiator and it helps you differentiate your business from your competitors. And the fourth thing is that it's a very, very important business asset these days. So you can see on the screen, Coca-Cola brand today values 36.2 billion USD, right? I mean, it's not anymore just a logo or just a registration. It's a very, very valuable business asset. And why will you not want to monetize it or, want that value in your brand? And that you can do only by protecting it. So as I was sharing that today, brand is not just a logo. Companies are trying to denote their personality to their logo, their values that they stand for. So we have a very fun quiz for you now. I'll go logo by logo and I want everyone to share with me what each logo stands for. So anybody with Baskin Robbins, anybody knows what the Baskin Robbins logo stands for? There is a number. Oh, it's for ice cream.
They have a basket which they provide ice cream. So there is a.
Can I answer?
Yeah, sure.
I think there are 31 flavors.
That's
in
correct.
Baskin Robbins.
Yeah, right.
I think it stands for we make people
31
happy.
logos and LG is Lucky Gold Star.
So we'll go logo by logo. So Baskin Robbins, that's correct, 31. So they wanted to give 31 every day of the month. They wanted their customers to have a unique flavor. So they stand for 31 flavors, one flavor for the day, each day of the month. I think Mr. Manoj shared that, yeah, the LG is a smiling face. And their motto is to really build a good connection with their customers. They want to be a very friendly connection with their customers. That's why they have a smiling face as their logo. Okay, what does
always with smile? So with smile.
That's
Amazon is A to Z, available A to Z.
That's right.
That's why the
smile. So they have a smile and they want to sell products from A to Z.
Yeah.
So okay, what does FedEx logo show or denote?
Oh, interesting.
From
anybody? Okay, I can give a clue. There's something between E and X.
Arrow. Some express way of delivery.
Yeah, so that arrow is actually to denote that they can achieve their goals. They're very progressive company and express delivery, right? The arrow is for that. And the last logo, anybody can guess which company?
Boat. It's Beats Audio.
Yeah, it's Beats. And what does it denote?
Headphones.
That's correct. The B is for the headphones. So I'm
Srishti,
glad. Right.
I just want to add something here.
Sure.
With you. There's a famous song, Hindi song. कुछ तो लोग कहेंगे लोगों का काम है कहना.
Right.
लोगों का काम है कहना. As you have started.
Wow, that's a great input. We'll definitely use this for our next session.
Thank you.
Logo ko kaam. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. So before we talk about brand protection, why it is important, let's bust some myths. Okay, and I want everybody to be very honest with me. So the first myth is that I'm doing business. My business does not need to protect my brand. Because I have so much goodwill in the market as a business owner, everybody knows me and everybody comes to me by my name. I register my logo, don't register my logo, I protect my brand, nothing. I mean, my business will flourish. How many people have this myth or how many people believe in this? Please comment yes, no, raise hands, anything. Everybody believes that it's important to protect your brand and register.
That's why they all are here.
I mean, that's great that you all have that understanding. But there are quite a few people who feel sometimes like this, that, sorry, there is no need to protect the brand. But that is not correct, because if you have so much goodwill in the market, you have, put in so much time and effort in the business so many years, then why not monetize that goodwill, right? Why to just keep that? Why don't you want to make that goodwill an asset for your company? And for the first step is to protect it, and then only it can become an asset. The second myth is that trademark registration is expensive. Did anybody think that it's an expensive process?
Well, there are many myths around it. So not the, I mean, difficult to find the right person will guide you right. There's mix of things.
So that's why we are here today. But did anybody feel that it was too expensive process, too lengthy? I don't want to invest my time. I want to put in my business registration and all will take away my time. Nobody, everybody thought it's, okay, Neil thought it's a tedious process. Okay, thank you for the honesty. Anybody else? Everybody thought it's an easy process. It's very convenient. So, and just clarify, so trademark registration is an investment actually into your brand. It is not a cost. So never think it as a cost. And also it is not an expensive process. The government fees for any small business is 4,500. And for a bigger business, it is 9,000. And I'm sure with all the expenses that each business puts in their marketing and also designing the logo with the branding collaterals, it's definitely more than 9,000 rupees that businesses are investing in their branding and marketing and social media and everything, right? So this small amount is just an investment in your brand to protect it. The third is that my brand name should include and reflect my products and services. Okay, how many people feel that your brand logo or name should, reflect or describe your services? How many people feel that? Yes, no, any? You can put in a chat box. Okay. We have one person who felt that. Nobody else feels that.
The brand name, I feel it should be there as a part of the logo. Not necessary, but I feel having it
easier for a person to understand what company is selling.
For a smaller company, till your time you're big enough to be recognized.
Actually, the expression of the company. So yeah, one has to express.
So, I mean, many people feel like, even I know as a person with marketing or branding, they feel that their logo should show what their services are. But under trademark law, this is not allowed. And my colleague Vanchaj will actually explain as to what aspect is allowed and what is not allowed when we cover that session as to what are the mistakes people do while choosing brand names. I think Mr. Rohit has shared a question with us as to, about passing off and common law. We will definitely take up this question in the end of the session and explain you the difference between passing off and registration. Okay. And the fourth one is that I'm a small business and no one will copy me. Or I've just started my business, who will copy me? I mean, I'm not as big as say Amazon or, Beats or LG that I have to protect my brand. How many people feel that?
I feel that.
Okay, thank you for sharing. Anybody else feels that? So we will share with you that one of our clients, they just started off their business this year. And they haven't even started off their business that somebody has bought their product and is actually just copying, selling the same product on Instagram, copying their brand strategy. My client puts up some post with some model. The same post is copied by the infringer. And only one smart thing they did, they changed the name of the logo a little bit. But it's not true that you're a small business and nobody will copy. With social media and Instagram, it's become even more easier for people to copy, and you will see that the infringer takes a product and this, like, in a few months, you'll see their Instagram page selling the same product and copying your same post and everything. So it's really important to take the step when you're starting up the business and, stop them and not think that nobody is copying you, because now it's become even more rampant with social media.
So now, question I had.
Yeah, sure.
I understand that doing a trademark is the non-expensive process, but protecting your trademark, is that expensive or is that not so expensive, or it varies from case to case?
No, it is not a very expensive process to protect it thereafter. So we will share the various ways as to how you can protect it after registration, and perhaps that will also answer your question. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what will happen if I don't protect my brand or why it is important. If I don't protect my brand, then easily copycats will infringe me. So everybody knows about the natural brand, the famous natural brand of ice cream brand of Bombay. So they recently filed a case against a Gujarat-based ice cream brand called Natural, who was using natural. And they have filed a case in Bombay High Court. And Bombay High Court has told the Gujarat business to stop using the natural brand. And also Naturals is such a big brand that they have asked the court to give them 150 crores as damages. That is still, the court still has to decide on that. But we can see how people are copying other brands. The second thing is that, if you don't protect, then competitors can take advantage. So Oreo is in India for 10 years now. And Parle came up with this biscuit this year called Fabio. Sorry, they came up in January 2020 called Fabio. This case is going on the Delhi High Court. And if you see both the packaging, it's very similar. So they came up with the case that Oreo came up with the case that, Parle's packaging is very similar to my packaging and my customers will get confused. So can you see, like, such big brands, Oreo and Parle are well-established companies, and as competitors, they are copying each other's packaging, right? So this case is yet to be decided, but it's an interesting example. Secondly, if I don't protect my brand, there can be damage to my business reputation. So recently, IELTS is an English testing coaching system, and
for GMAT and CAT GRE, yeah.
Yeah, right. And they basically send a lot of legal notices in the north to a lot of centers, especially in Punjab, because many people were using their logo without their permission and giving very poor quality of coaching. So if they hadn't registered it, it would have been difficult for them to go behind all the people who were using their logo without their permission. And the last thing is that why will you not want to protect your logo? Because it can later become it is today also a very, very valuable business asset, and the value will keep growing. We can take examples of Amazon and Mercedes. Amazon is $254 billion USD and Mercedes is $58.23 million USD. So I understand that some people may be thinking that these are such big businesses and such established companies. Perhaps it's a very big business asset for them, right? It doesn't make sense for us, but that's not true. All of these companies started small, and thereafter their value has grown thereafter, right? So how many people are still not convinced that brand protection is not for me? My organization is still smaller and I don't need brand protection. How many people feel that? Everybody feels that now they have to go register their brand or protect their brand. None of them feel that it is not for me.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. But okay, so
That's why we are here.
So I have this question. Who can somebody guess who this lady is?
Mrs. Spector.
Yeah, that's correct. I think you saw the clue was from the logo.
But her company had come with an IPO recently.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. And this lady was actually a home baker in Ludhiana. And she started, how much she started her company with? An investment of only 20,000 rupees. Right? She was a homemaker. She used to do catering in Ludhiana to these parties with bakery items and all. And today, as you shared, this company came with an IPO of 541 crores last year in December. And today she is the leading supplier for buns to McDonald's, Burger King, KFC. They are in 60 countries and they have around 458,000 retail stores and then 23 states in India. So you can see that this home baker, if she wouldn't have taken the right steps, perhaps to protect her brand, she wouldn't have been so big today, right? She started off in 1978 and today, after so many years, their brand is having a market capitalization of over 2,300 crores. So it's really important to take the right steps at the right time, and so that you never know where your brand can take you, right? So the next session we will be taken by Vanchaj regarding the mistakes that people make while choosing their brand name. So over to you, Vanchaj.
Thank you, Srishti. First of all, thank you, 10 Network for giving us this opportunity, and thanks to everyone who's joined us today. before I begin, I'll just quickly take you through a short quiz. So this quiz is basically wherein you will be identifying some brands. We will be giving you clues. So it will be highly interactive, and we want to know how much you know about these brands. Okay, so I'll just quickly share my screen. Okay, so is my screen visible?
Not yet.
Starting.
Starting.
Yep.
Yeah.
It is? Okay, great. So you got to identify the brands. You can unmute yourself. You please feel free to unmute yourself or give your answers in the chat box. Okay, so let's begin.
Starbucks, Android, Coca-Cola, FB, Ford.
We're just starting.
We will show you the logo. You have to guess the logo.
So here goes. 1 second. Okay. So who can identify this brand on your right?
Salesforce.
This is Salesforce.
No, that's
Salesforce.com.
Skype.
Yeah, Mr. Vinod got it right. It is Skype indeed. Thank you, Mr. Vinod. Okay, who can identify this
Nestle.
one?
Nestle.
All right, I think everyone got it right this time.
Nestle, yeah.
All right, this one.
And Dean?
Anyone else?
Imami?
Anyone
That's
else wants to?
coffee or tea.
Imami or Imami?
It's a shampoo, maybe Pantene.
Pantene.
Okay, that's correct. It is Pantene indeed. This is easy. What is it?
Tea brand. Okay, sorry.
All right,
Hot Wheels.
Hot Wheels.
Hot Wheels, yeah.
absolutely correct. Hot Wheels.
Tommy Hilfiger.
Edge.
Tommy Hilfiger.
Who will identify this? It's Saturday today. There will be an evening.
Budweiser.
That's correct. Absolutely. Okay, and the last one.
Marlboro.
Right. Okay, let's take a couple of more then.
Logitech.
Oh. I'll give you a hint. It's a cellular brand. It's a cellular phone brand. Anyone? No, it's not Samsung.
Sony.
Tata.
Sony.
No.
Sony. STC. Wow. People have forgotten it's a lost brand now.
That's
All
true.
Chinese brands are forgotten.
Monster.com.
Yeah, it's the Monster drink, Monster and Energy.
Yeah.
Ford.
Wow, everyone knows Ford. Great.
Resembles Subaru, no?
It resembles, yes.
Kings.
Very, very famous term these days.
Burger.
Anyone?
Make in India.
Do you get this? We are saying this word every day.
Yes.
Even before we call somebody, a ringtone comes and we hear that.
Times of India.
Corona.
Swiss military.
Red.
Swiss.
Swiss military.
Swatch.
Sorry.
Watch.
Okay, so this one is related to movies. Other people can also participate.
Shemaru.
PVR.
No, PVR is not.
No, it's not PVR, it's Shemaru.
IMDb.
IMDb. Cisco.
This one's easy.
Cisco.
Yes.
HP.
HP. HP.
All right.
Fantastic quiz, Vanshas.
So this was interesting, I hope. And now, since I have your attention, and also, just let me know if the screen is showing.
Yes.
Okay, great. Wonderful. So now, as my colleague discussed about the basics of brands, now you very well understand what a brand is, what it stands for. So we'll just dig a little deeper here, and this particular section will deal with the mistakes that people usually make while selecting their name, their trademark, their brand. All right. So there are specific embargoes in the act, in the law, wherein you will be stopped from getting a registration on the with the registry. And I'll just deal with some of these embargoes. Okay. You please feel free to stop me anywhere you want, anything that you want to ask me. Unmute yourself or just shoot the question in the chat box. We'll address it. Now, number one thing that you need to understand, which Srishti also spoke about in the second slide, is that your brand, unlike the normal understanding, that your brand should not describe your functions. It should not describe what you do. It should not describe what you sell. Whether you are in the service industry, whether you are in the goods industry, it is always advisable to have a distinctive mark and not a descriptive mark, right? So let's say that you want to register yourself, like you can see on your screen, the left-hand side top brand, it's chef. Okay. So when I hear chef in my mind, a general understanding is that it may be related to food somehow, right? So that's why this particular brand was not granted registration, okay, because it described the functions. So you may face objections while you register your mark, while you register your brand, while you apply for a registration. You may face objections from the registry on the basis of the description of that particular brand. Likewise, if you see the bottom brand, the Simla brand, okay, so Simla is basically a cigarette manufacturer. Okay, they manufacture and sell cigarettes, right? So even this was stopped because you also cannot have any geographical indications on your brand. Now I know the spelling is different, but when you hear Simla, even if it doesn't have an H, you automatically start thinking about the hill station. And they also have mountains on the brand if you look closely, right? So even a geographical indication is not allowed. All right. Now we'll take a quick example of a very famous brand in today's date is the Delivery. So Delivery is basically like, just tell me, any one of you, when you hear Delivery, and this question is only to the ones who do not know about this company, who might not know about this company, what do you think Delivery does? Quickly.
From all the suppliers and delivers it.
Can you be louder, ma'am, please?
It
delivers or something to do with supplies.
Yeah, it's a delivery. It's a courier company.
Absolutely. So just by the sound of it, just by hearing the name of it, you understood that, okay, it's a delivery company, right? So it actually does package deliveries and bulk deliveries for all the enterprises across India. Okay. And this is a very, very big Gurgaon based company. And the problem with this term is that you are able to decipher, you're able to know that, okay, delivery does deliveries, right? And it's also, it has a Delhi in it, okay? And their registered office is also in Delhi. So this particular trademark, and we all know that it's a very big company now in today's time, but such a big company was unable to get a trademark registration. Okay. The Delhi High Court had refused the trademark registration on the basis of it being descriptive. Okay. So your mark cannot be descriptive. So let's say today, a very, very common example, a very simple example, if I have to take, let's say today I want to sell mangoes. Okay. I have a farm and I want to start off a brand of mangoes. I'm growing mangoes in my farm and I'm selling them. Now my brand's name cannot be Mango Wala, okay, or nothing to do with mango. If I launch a brand in the name of Mango Wala, then that mark will be very difficult to get registration. Another thing that is important to understand is when you are thinking of registering a brand, make sure that your brand does not have any emblem, okay, into it. The national emblem, as you can see in your screen. Okay. Other than this, the religious susceptibilities are also prohibited. You cannot have any religious symbol on your trademark, on your brand. And lastly, in fact, this particular example happened very recently, wherein Myntra was asked to change their mark. Okay. Now, very quickly, please, all of you who are aware about this incident, wherein the left logo, as you can see on your screen, is the old logo and the right one is the new one, wherein Myntra was asked to change it. So who all thought it to be what it was told to be on, like, when this incident happened?
I felt it like that.
So you felt that it was scandalous. It
Yes,
wasn't.
yes.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah. So this was started when Amazon had changed its logo.
Right.
The Myntra's logo is there since inception of their business.
Absolutely.
But because of the issues with the Amazon logo, people have started taking objection with Myntra logo also. So that was the reason they had changed the logo.
Right. So to be very honest, I mean, I am a trademark lawyer and we see these brands every day. And I honestly did not perceive it to be what it was told at that time. I honestly thought that, okay, it's just an M, right? But then it did face a lot of questions. It did face a lot of reputation hazards, right? And they were forced to change their logos. So sometimes you might have gotten the registration, you might have gone through with your registration, you've gotten everything, you have it covered all, you have it all covered, but eventually you might face some issues, right? So we need to think about all of these things in order to understand, in order to come to a conclusion that, okay, this is going to be the face of my business. Because as Shrishti also pointed out, that brand or your trademark is your face. Like she told us about the Coca-Cola example. Now today, when we look at Coca-Cola, we see trust, we see quality, right? So these brands will become the face of your business. So these need to be chosen very, very carefully. One last thing that I want to add is that, as you can see on the right hand side bottom corner, there is a egg tray, right? Now your brand can also not be a shape. Okay, you cannot register. Let's say you are selling eggs, right? And your brand cannot have an egg tray in it. Okay, so again, a description. contrary to a popular belief that my brand should resonate what I do, we always advise that it is better not to go to that road. Okay. Yes, you may find a lot of brands that have descriptions on it. And in the next slide, we'll understand how these brands manage to get a registration, or how is it possible to get it, right? So moving forward, these are different kinds of brands. Okay. Now these are, we've categorized into 5 heads. Okay. Now these are very common brands that you are seeing in your screen. Anyone who knows what a generic mark is? Anyone? You can unmute yourself and let us know. So a generic mark is basically when your mark has become so popular and has been started using, like your consumers have started identifying it in such a generalistic way that your identity has evaded. Okay. Now let's say tomorrow I want, let's say I get a cut on my hand and my mom tells me to just go and put a Band-Aid. She might not be referring to the Band-Aid brand. We might have a Hansa Plus in our house. Okay. So with this, the identity of that particular brand is lost, right? Likewise, aspirin is not a, like, it's now it's termed as a generalistic drug, right? So whenever I say that I have a headache, like my dad will probably tell me go take an aspirin. Okay. And we might just have a regular Crocin at home. Okay. So when we say that generic marks are even more difficult to get registration than descriptive marks. Okay. Now, another example which is not given here is like a very common example when I tell someone that, okay, I need some research on this. So someone will tell me, okay, I'll just Google it and tell you. So what that person might not mean is that he might not necessarily go and Google it. He might also search it on some other search engines, right? But now the term Google has become so general that it is reaching the generic marks vertical on your left-hand side of the screen. So the more the left, the more difficult it is to get a registration. Okay. You would want to move towards the right-hand side of the of this particular pH scale, because more the right, the more easier and more. Is there a question, Deepak?
Once as you continue, we'll take questions in Q&A
Right.
session.
Sure. Okay. So more towards the right you go, more easier and better chances you have of registration. Okay. Now let's say we take up descriptive marks. As I've been telling you, descriptive marks are marks that tell me what these things do, what brands do. Let's say Best Buy. Now Best Buy like the sound of Best Buy tells me that it's probably a shop that sells commodities at the best rates. Okay. And that is what it does, right? So it has a description to it. Okay. And these particular marks are a little difficult to get registration. Very important thing that you need to keep in mind before you finalize your brand is that it should not have a description to it. Description of what you do, and any other description will be fine, but it should not have a description of what you do. Now, if we take another example, the example that we took in the previous slide, which was of the delivery, right? Now, delivery again is a very, very descriptive mark. A lot of you might not even know what, I'm sorry, a lot of you who answered that, okay, this brand does deliveries, might not have even heard of that brand, right? Even I did not think that it would get registration, right? And it didn't. Now, if you've understood this, there's another segment that goes to the right hand side of the page, which is suggestive mark. Now, suggestive marks are marks that will not describe what your functions are, but just suggest it. Like Microsoft. Microsoft is a software company. We all know that, but it somewhere just suggests it, right? Microsoft. Likewise, Jaguar. Jaguar is an automobile giant, but what it does is like what is it suggesting? Like it's fast. Okay, Jaguar is fast, right? It is not telling you that I am an automobile company or I am a, I manufacture cars. It is not telling me that. So it's just suggesting by its logo, by its name, that I do this, I might be doing this. So these marks are a little easier to get registrations as compared to descriptive marks, right? Then comes arbitrary marks. Now, arbitrary marks are those marks which have a meaning in the English dictionary, but they do not have any bearing on what functions they do. Now, let's take an example of apple. Now, apple, we all know what an apple is. It's a fruit. But had Apple not been famous as it is today, and if I tell you there is a brand called Apple, would you even think that that particular brand does electronics? It makes phones, it makes tablets, it makes computers, right? No, correct? So these are the marks that will have a high chance of getting registration. Again, Starbucks. Starbucks, I mean, when you hear Starbucks, had it not been this popular today, we might not have been able to judge whether it's a coffee company, whether it's an apparel store or whatever, right? So these marks will be little easier to get registrations than suggestive marks. Okay. Now then comes the most the marks that are most likely to get registrations, that are fanciful marks. Now, fanciful marks are marks that have been coined especially for that business. Now, Adidas, we don't think Adidas is a name in the English dictionary, right? Likewise, Kodak. Kodak is also not a name. It's a coined word. Okay. So if you coin a word for your business, that is the best thing that you can name for your business. Of course, your name, what you can do is you can break it, right? So let's say there are two entrepreneurs of that particular business, two partners. So you can break the first, the prefix of your name and then join them, right? So both the names, just break the name into half and just join them. Okay. There are several other ways to coin a fanciful mark, best chosen by the owners of the business. But a fanciful mark would mean that it doesn't have any meaning to it, but then you do apply it to your brand, wherein it will be very, very difficult for someone to identify from that particular name what your business does. Okay. So these are five kinds of marks that you really need to understand. And the more left you go, it will be more difficult to get a registration. And the right you are on the PH scale, it will be very, very easy to get a registration. The thumb rule is that you don't have to be descriptive. That is it. Just don't be descriptive. Don't tell about what you do in your brand, and you will be safe, right? Now, while I told you that there are such embargoes about shape, about religious susceptibilities, about descriptiveness, now there are other embargoes as well. Now these embargoes stem from other registrations. Like you will be wanting to get a registration on the trademark registry. There will be several others, your competitors, your non-competitors, people from other industries, other markets who will be wanting to get registration, right? Now, okay, before that, I'm so sorry, before that, this particular thing that we tell our clients, we ask our clients to identify each and everything possible into your particular good, whatever you do. Now, let's say you are a shoe manufacturer. Okay. Over here, what you're looking at is a Nike Air Jordan shoe. Okay. Everyone knows it today. It's very famous, right? Now, a shoe does not just have a trademark. Okay. Yes, it does have a trademark. Towards your left, if you see a Nike swoosh is a very, very famous trademark, right? And it also has a copyright. Now, what is a copyright? So copyright will mean a copyright is an artistic article. Okay. A painting, a photograph, any picture that is taken, a song, a book, all these are subjects of copyright. Now here, if you see the image of Michael Jordan playing basketball is a very famous copyright that is where that has been licensed to Nike to use on their shoes, right? So a shoe which has a trademark also has a copyright. Okay. Likewise, it has a design. Now, design. So all these things are subject matter of intellectual property rights, the tangible rights that your business will have, that your enterprise will have, and it'll grow with it, right? So design is one of those protections that you get on the article, on the design quotient of that article. Now here, the shoes design will be subject matter of the Design Act. Okay. Likewise, there will also be a technology towards that particular product. Here, the shoe has a technology of the sole. If you see left-hand side bottom corner, there is a fluid with this shoe that does not, like, if you're jumping, if you're playing while playing basketball, it does not have a lot of impact on your ankle. So that's a technology that they've developed. It's an invention. So when you invent something, and it's a technology that you invented, and it's a new technology. Since it's an invention, it has to be new, right? That particular thing is subject matter of patents, right? So these four things there is a possibility that these four things are in one particular good. It's your point of view to identify them, to make sure that all of this is protected, and we call it a 360-degree protection of your particular product. You could be doing anything, not just this, but let's say today you sell jewelries. Okay, so jewelries are also subject matter of Designs Act. Okay, the name could be Joy Talukas or any brand that you may have, right? So Joy Talukas is subject matter of trademark, and Designs Act will be the design of that particular jewelry. Okay, so it's your wish, and we always advise our clients to get a 360-degree protection, because that will protect your brand wholesomely. Okay. Now, very quickly, we as I was saying, that there are different embargoes when you want to, or which mark you want to register, which mark you will finalize. But as I was saying, that as you are the one who wants to register a mark with the trademark registry, there are several other people as well who would want to register the mark, who would want to protect their marks, and who would want their protection to not let anyone else use their brand. Okay. Now, very important is to understand another concept, which is of the similarity quotient. Okay. Now, if your particular brand is similar to a mark that is already there on the registry, then you may face problems. As I told you, there are a lot of people who will be looking to register their marks. There are possibilities that both the marks may be similar or sometimes identical. Okay. Now, how do you fight that? How do you check if your trademark is available or not? Okay. Now, a very simple tool that the registry gives us is the trademark public search. Now, this public search enables us to identify, to do a search on the registry. This is a free of cost trademark search. The registry does not charge anything for this. It's a very simple search, very simple tool on how to search it. So what you do is that you search for any mark that, so let's say you want mark X to be one of your brands and you are still deciding, you're still thinking whether you should do or you should go forward with it or not. One of the tools that you should use in order to come to a conclusion whether you should use it or not is this trademark public search. Now, this public search will enable you to identify any such mark which is even close to your mark in that particular segment of goods. Now, let's say that now very, very important example over here, which got a lot of eyes a few months back, was the Coronil that was which was manufactured by Patanjali. It was invented by Patanjali, wherein they, as we all know, they said that it does cure corona, right? But there was this another entity, another pharmaceutical company who had gotten the name Coronil registered, and because Patanjali might not have done a public search, they might not have done a search of the registry, they proceeded with the name Coronil, and the other party who had the registration could stop them from getting their mark registered, getting Patanjali's Coronil mark registered. So this was only possible because the pharmaceutical company that had gotten the mark registered earlier, they got the mark registered. Had they not gotten the mark registered, even then they would have been able to stop them, but it would have been very difficult. Since they have a registration, they had the registration, they were able to stop Patanjali, and today Patanjali was stopped by the Madras High Court. And today all that money that Patanjali spent on their marketing, on their to build that particular brand, to get it out of the stores and to print it on the medicine, it's all lost, right? So this is what we always advise, that you need to do a trademark search. You need to understand that it is a very important tool, and to come to a conclusion that, okay, this is the brand that I want to use. This is the brand that resonates with my services, with me, my identity, and where I want to take my business to. This tool comes in very, very handy, right? Now, there are different steps. Okay, now, again, we will understand that how do you register a mark? Okay, we've understood till now that what a brand is, what all brands we don't have to use, what all brands will be prohibited to get a registration. But now it's time to understand and know the steps, and to deal with it. Srishti, can you take over now? Srishti will take over this particular segment, wherein she'll talk about where and how can you, and what are the steps. How do you renew it? Is a renewal possible or not? So all these things will be taken up by Srishti. Over to you, sir.
Right. Also, I see that people had put a few questions in the chat box, Vanshaj, regarding their names. They have shared their brand names and they want us to comment on whether they are descriptive and whether they can seek registration. So we will
take the questions in a Q&A session. We have 15 minutes for your presentation. So we'll start our Q&A by 12:15.
Okay, we'll wrap up by 15 minutes. That's fine. So as Vanshaj explained, the first step is always do a public search, and to search whether your brand name has already been registered or has been taken by somebody. And the website of the trademark registry has the link where you can go and check whether your trademark is already registered. It's also very important to check that your brand name is not taken by any other brand by doing a general Google search, because there could be certain brands that have not registered but are using the same brand name. I mean, nowadays, I think because of Instagram and Facebook marketing, I think go ahead and do a search on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram also to see that nobody has a similar handle or similar brand name, right? Second step is to file the application. The application is an online process. You basically need to fill in the details about who will own the brand, whether your company's details, if you're a sole proprietor, those details, if you're a partnership, perhaps partnership details. You need to mention as to if you have started using the brand, the date of the use, and evidence to show that you're using by, say, invoices, marketing collaterals, website, okay? And you also have to mention that for which services or goods you want to register the brand. So those are the things that we need to write. So we often advise our clients that if they are, suppose presently they are in the shoe industry, they want to sell, they're selling shoes. But later on, they want to expand their business. They want to start selling clothes also. They want to start selling perhaps other accessories, sports accessories. So we often tell them that it's important to take registration in all possible businesses or goods and services that you want to expand in. And because that will help you to get the advantage of being the first one to register it or protect it, right? And not prevent your competitors from using your brand name or similar brand name and similar services or goods. Third is that once you file the application, then the examiner, the trademark registry examines your application. They may come up with certain objections, for example, certain documents that they need, or they feel that your brand name is similar to an existing brand. Thereafter, we usually have to reply to them and explain to them as to how our brand is different. Once they accept the publication and the registration application, they publish it in a journal, and they give third parties 4 months to object. If the third party feels that the brand is similar to theirs, they can object. So this step will not come in place if you have done your search in advance. So while choosing a brand name, if you've done your search and you've seen that nobody else is having the same brand name, then I don't think anybody will actually object to your registration. The fifth step is that you get the certificate. And after you get the certificate, this certificate is valid for 10 years and you can keep renewing it after every 10 years. And there is no limit to the number of times you can renew. So your registration can actually keep getting renewed till your lifetime, but it's important to renew. Because many times we understand that business owners forget that they have to renew it, and then it can expire and you can see a competitor can start using it, right? Then how many people feel that, okay, registration is done and that's the only way to protect, and it's done now, my brand is protected? Did any of you feel like that once I've registered, my brand is protected? I already have a registration. I don't need to do anything else. My brand is protected. I don't know. Do we have any comments in the chat box? Okay. So, sorry. So that is not correct. I think Rohit has sent another question. We will definitely take regarding class 99 in the end of the session. Then, so that is not correct. It's very important to keep a watch on the journal. The trademark registry, every week on Monday, they come up with a journal where they publish the marks that have filed applications for registration. So what we see is many times competitors, they tweak the name a little bit and file the application, and many times the registry even accepts the application. So we can see here Nike and Nike. Like I can share personally from one of our client examples is that one of our clients had a brand name called Diamond, and their competitor registered a brand name called Demand. They removed the O and they made it AA, DIAAMAND. And the trademark registry did accept their application. So if our client had not kept a watch on the journal, the competitor would have easily got their registration, and it would have been very difficult to go behind their competitors then. So our client did file the objection at the right time to stop the competitor's registration. So it's very important to keep a watch. So now what happens if somebody infringes our mark? The first step is always to send a cease and desist notice. And many times we see that after sending the legal notice, the opposite party may come around and settle the matter. if the opposite party still does not stop, then we have the second step would be to file a court case. So these court cases are not cases like IP disputes are not something which goes on for years and years. You can definitely go to the court and tell them that, it's very urgent that to stop the opposite party from using the brand name. That means injunct them till the court decides the whole case. So, when the court injuncts the opposite party's business is impacted, right? Or they can't sell their products, they can't use their brand name. So definitely a solution is met. You can get a solution in these matters very quickly. And you can also ask the court to, seize their goods. The court appoints a commissioner. He will go to the office of the infringer, the factories of the infringer, and seize all their goods. You can ask the court for damages as to whatever loss you have suffered. Or you can also ask the court to tell the opposite party to share their profits, to disclose their profits, and the court can award you those profits. But even before going to the court, it's important that you take these 3-4 steps that are very important to prevent, why go to the stage where somebody starts copying? Why not stop it at the first stage itself, right? So Amazon has the service of Amazon Brand Registry. You can register your brand with them and they will let you know if somebody is copying or using a similar name. Amazon has done this with many brands and they have actually stopped some around 6 million or 10 million brand owners who were listing goods which were infringing or had similar names. Then another way is that you record your intellectual property with the custom authorities. So if anybody is coming with any goods that are infringing or are counterfeits, the custom authority will stop those goods from entering India and they will report to you. And this process is an easy process. They have an online registration process and you can register your brand or intellectual property with the custom authority. And the last step, a very important step, is also to have proper clauses in your contracts. So we have seen with one of our clients that it was their distributor only who was, who had instigated another manufacturer to start manufacturing a brand which was very similar to our client's brand. And this distributor was only facilitating the infringement and, so if our client had a proper contract with the distributor and, proper conditions to prevent the distributor from, indulging in such activities, a case would have never come up in court. Similarly, we see that, a lot of times partners, file the trademark registration in joint name, but they do not have any proper agreement in place. And later on, if there's a split between partners, then it's difficult to decide as to who will use that name. Like one of our clients, they had a food chain. They had built a lot of goodwill in their area for Sindhi food for about 2 years. And then there was a split between partners and now none of them is able to use their brand name. If they had some proper clauses in place that, they could have actually encashed upon their goodwill and their brand. And also very important to have proper clauses with your employees, because you don't want your employees to start, copying your brand or start using the way you are doing business and copy your know-how and start doing business, right? So proper clauses to show that, okay, whatever intellectual property you create when you're working with me belongs to the company and not the employee. So our next topic is, now the important question as to how to monetize it. I see a lot of questions again in the chat box. We will definitely answer it after just quickly finishing this last section and then we will answer all questions. Yeah. So over to you, Anshaj.
All right. Thank you, Srishti. I'll just quickly share my screen. Just confirm if it's visible.
Yeah, it is visible.
Great. Okay. So very insightful, Srishti. Now, the last leg of this presentation is to understand, and what we all have been waiting for very patiently. Thank you so much to all the participants. That how can you monetize your brand? Now you understand that, okay, we've gotten the registration. Now we're doing good. We're doing okay, but you want to monetize it, right? Now, how do you do this? There are two major ways to do this. One is licensing. The other is assignment. Okay. Now let's talk about licensing first. Now, licensing is a process wherein you will be granting rights to a third party to use your brand for a specific consideration. Now there are different types of arrangements wherein you give that permission to a third party. Let's say we talk about distribute, and these arrangements are sometimes, you might be involved in this arrangement, but you might not even know that you are involved. Okay. One of those is distributor arrangements. HUL does it. Like we all know HUL and how it distributes its FMCG goods. So this particular license will be an agreement, and these agreements will have a lot of different clauses that talk about the territoriality of where will you sell the goods with that particular branding, what will be the term of that particular licensing agreement. So licensing is basically when you're just permitting the third party. Okay, you still own the rights. You still have those rights to decide where and when and who do you want to give that particular license to. Again, these licensing, let's talk about distributor agreements only. Now, this distributor arrangements will depend on whether it is an exclusive right or a non-exclusive right. Okay. Now, an exclusive right is basically when, let's say you own as Srishti also mentioned this example. Let's say you want to manufacture shoes and you have an X branding on it. Now, you tell the third party that okay, you can use that particular shoe and sell it and with the particular brand in Rajasthan. Okay. Now, you will be in a licensing agreement with that particular entity to sell your merchandise, to sell brands, to sell shoes using your brand in Rajasthan. An exclusive distributor arrangement will be when you only let that particular person do that. A non-exclusive will be that when you use that particular mark and let someone else also use that particular mark in that same territory. So non-exclusive would mean that there are multiple licensees of that particular mark in the same territory. Exclusive will be that you do not let your brand compete with your brand. Okay. So what kind of a license, what kind of a distributor arrangement you want to make is totally up to you. Likewise, there's franchising agreement also. Now, this kind of a system is basically when you are letting someone else use your brand as well as the system of your particular company. Let's say McDonald's. McDonald's not only gives the M sign and the McDonald's, the brand, but it also gives out the system. Throughout the world, you'll see McDonald's being managed by somewhat the same process. The making of that particular burger, the making of the particular food, anywhere in the world is somewhat same or similar, I would say, right? So you not only give out your brand, but also your system. Now, these franchising arrangements will also have different clauses with respect to the consideration, with respect to the royalties that you will make through it, with respect to the territoriality, whether you want one McDonald's in a particular city, whether you want multiple McDonald's in a particular city or an area. So it totally depends on your wish. And so lastly, the merchandise arrangements. Merchandising arrangements is basically when you are letting a third party manufacture your merchandise. Let's say Hamleys. Hamleys is a manufacturer, right? And Marvel has licensed its, let's say, superheroes, the characters, to manufacture the merchandises. Okay. Now, again, all these kind of arrangements will have some consideration towards it. The money factor, right? The time under which these licensing agreements will expire. Okay. These will also have a lot of territoriality aspect to it, right? So in a nutshell, licensing would mean when I give permission to someone to use my brand in a particular territory, while I still own the brand. I have not given my rights away. Okay. Now, this is one of the ways to monetize your brand, right? Another way over here is to assign. Now, now how is licensing different from assignment? Assignment, so licensing, as I told you, is just permitting the third party, while you own that brand. You will have sheer autonomy over your brand. But in assignment, what you are doing is you're selling the brand. Okay, you're selling it all together. So as you see, there are different examples on the screen. Like Reliance very recently bought Haptik, Cisco bought CloudCherry, Oyo bought Innovate, and Byju's bought Scholar. Okay, now why do they sell it? When a big company like Reliance sees upscale potential in your business, in your business system, in your brand, now that particular entity like Reliance will also look at the future, right? They would identify the potential that your business has and would want to acquire it. While they acquire it, yes, they acquire the business and all that, but it is also important that you understand that your brand is also upscaling, right? Your brand is also growing with you, correct? So because brand is an identifier, okay? So the customers of Haptik identify Haptik, and this is what Reliance wants to leverage on, okay? So you're not just selling your business, you are also selling your brand. So the brand value of that particular brand will also add on to the entire amount of money that the company is sold for, right? So there are different concepts over here, one of which is the concept of proprietor, okay? The concept of registered proprietor, okay? Now, registered proprietor, when you've gotten the registration, you are on the registry's name and the mark will be in the name of Haptik, okay? Now, any director or any, let's say, it totally depends on who do you want to file the name on, okay? File the trademark on, right? So Haptik, if they file the name on their directors, then it will be transferred to Reliance, and the proprietor will change. Okay, the registered proprietor will change. Registered proprietor before the merger would have been Haptik, but now it will be Reliance. Okay, so while with respect to licensing, we are just giving permission to a third party. With respect to assignment, we are selling it out. And one more concept that is very important over here is that there might be different foreign companies that may want to enter India. Okay, but they are looking to that for the first step, and they might want to acquire your company. They might feel that, okay, this particular X company is a good medium to enter this country. So they might want to attain that goodwill. They might want to attain that reputation that you have constructed for your business in the market. So what they'll simply do is they'll contact you. They'll ask you. They'll probably pitch you for an assignment deed or a licensing deed, which helps your mark, which helps your mark to spread its wings throughout the world. Okay. Now, this is the major difference between assignment and licensing. It's totally up to the business where and how they want to monetize their particular brand, their business. Okay, and monetizing is just one of the things that needs to be done. But to make it like to give a very quick understanding to this, all these things are only possible if you are a registered proprietor. If you're not a registered proprietor, and with registered proprietor, what I mean is that your brand is registered with the registry. Okay, you need to do the registration. If you do not have a registration, Reliance might just start another Haptik and they probably just can, register the brand Haptik in their name. They might not want your business. They might just acquire your business. Okay. And without the goodwill, without the branding on it, because they themselves can do it, right? And this is why it is highly important to start off with registering your brand. Because today, if let's say I'm starting a shoe company, I do not know where will it lead me in the next 10 or 20 years. Adidas also started small. Everyone starts small, right? But where you reach is totally up to your hard work, your business potential, your idea. And that is what needs to be protected. If you can protect your brand, if you can protect your trademark, then companies like Reliance, Oyo, Cisco, and Byju's will definitely be interested, and that will just elevate the value of your company. So
Vanshaj, I'll request you to just wrap up the session because
yes,
we need to spend time on Q&A also.
Thank you, Mangesh. This was my last statement, actually.
Okay, thank you.
I was just going to say that just be here. We'll take a lot of questions now, and we'll also have a e-booklet to disperse, which we will give you. This e-booklet will have a lot of information on how to do it, where you can do it, and general understanding of whatever we've spoken about. So, okay, over to you, Mangesh. Thank you so much. I just should stop my.
Rahul is there?
Just to actually add on Vanshaj what he shared. So we have an ebook, as Vanshaj shared, on basics of how to register your brand and how to choose your brand name. So in case anybody is interested, I know the attendee, the organizers will share with us the list of all the participants. But in case you want us to mail it to you, please share your email IDs with the organizers and we can share it with you.
Srishti, I'll request you to share your email ID or Vanshaj's email ID on the chat box. So if anybody is interested in ebook copy, they can directly send an email.
Yeah, that will.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, Rahul.
Yeah, Mangesh.
Yeah.
You can thanks Vanshaj and Srishti. We would like to now start with the question answer session. I think Mangesh, you can take up the questions that are coming in the chat box.
Yeah. Thank you, Rahul. So Rahul, before taking the questions from the chat box, I'll be asking for the basic question as far as the the Act is concerned, Trademark Registration Act 1999, for the the concept understanding of the participant. So mention these are my questions. Can all forms of company, be it proprietorship, LLP, one-person company, can file the application for one trademark registration? The second question is, what is the timeline of getting the registration? And the third question, which is connected to the fees payment, is there any official fees which, as an applicator, we need to pay that?
Okay. Thank you for your question. So yes, you rightly pointed out, any organization, be it a sole proprietorship, be it a company, be it a partnership firm, be it a single firm, anyone can get a registration. Anyone can file for a registration. Okay. Secondly, the timeline point of view, when we file a trademark registration, so there are 5 offices in India. Okay. And all these offices, there's an office in Ahmedabad, Mumbai, Delhi, Chennai, and Kolkata. These 5 offices work on their own pace. Okay. Where will we file the trademark depends on the office of that particular company. Okay. And usually what we've seen is, even though we were hit by a pandemic and we still are in it, usually what we see is we get a registration somewhere between 6 to 8 months, depending on, considering that we have not gotten any objections. Okay. Srishti mentioned the steps, and there was a step wherein third parties are allowed to oppose our mark. If there are no oppositions, then we can think of getting a registration done in about 6 to 8 months, but it totally depends on the situation where we file it and whether we get an opposition or not. What was your third question regarding the cost?
Official fees.
As Trishti also earlier mentioned that there is a fee, but that fee fluctuates with respect to the size of the entity who's registering it. So let's say that you are an entity registered with MSMEs, okay, Udyog MSMEs, right? Then you will get a concession of 50% from the registry, okay? Usually the cost of filing a trademark application is 9,000 rupees for companies, for big enterprises, corporations, right? But for people like, let's say, small proprietorship or any company that is like a startup, anyone who's registered with the MSMEs, for them, there's a 50% discount and the fee slashes to 4,500 only.
Okay.
Yes.
So next question, Vanshaj, is what is the difference between TM and registry? So I had seen the logo of McDonald's. They also has a R with circle around it, and they also had a TM.
Right. Very well picked up. This is one of the most asked questions that we receive. So a TM would mean that I have filed a registration. I have not gotten the registration yet. It's just a filing that I've done. Okay. And TM, what TM does is it tells all the third parties, everyone in the world, in India actually, it's a territorial right, only applicable in India, that no one can use this particular mark in India. Okay. I have already filed a trademark application and you are told not to use it. If you use it, I will come after you. R would mean that I have gotten the registration. I have gotten the sanctions from the registry. I have the registration and I am telling this R and circle is basically telling the third parties, because you cannot paste the registration certificate on the board, right? So it's just a symbol telling all the third parties that you have gotten the registration and please do not use my mark.
So technically speaking, Vanshaj, one can start using TM by merely just submitting the application without waiting the final, whether it is accepted or rejected by the concerned authorities.
Yes, you can start you must use TM.
Okay.
As soon as you filed the application, and you must file the application as soon as you have finalized your mark, because more the delay, more chances that someone else might register it. And I'll just quickly interject, like tell you one more thing, that India, apart from several other unlike several other jurisdictions, is the first to use jurisdiction. So the person who has used it first will get priority over.
Okay, it's a first come first serve basis then.
First come serve basis. But so there is a difference. There are jurisdictions that have that grant registration on the basis of application. So first to apply. So India is not one of them. India is first to use. So if you've used it, you can show priority and you will be granted priority.
What if in the case of one had applied for the registration at the time of legal status of the entity was proprietorship? See, this typically happens. Once the company grows, then the same proprietorship company either gets converted into LLP or a private limited. So means he has to again reapply for the as a proprietor rights, or same can be continued?
So there is a concept of amending the application, wherein there are such amendments possible that do not affect the brand. This is one of them, wherein you are changing the nature of the company. Now, let's say you want to change, let's say you want to change the name of the brand. That is impossible. Let's say you want to change the look of the brand. That is also not possible. For that, you will have to file a separate brand altogether.
But in case of change of nature of company, the ownership will be in the name of company in case of a private limited company from the proprietorship, the earlier proprietor.
Yes. And a very simple thing that we also can do over here is just to assign it to the new company. There will be a new company that will be born when one company closes, right? So you can assign it. Like I mentioned in my last slide, you give all the rights to the new company that is born out of the old company.
So Vanshul, what is the logic of having 5 offices? Can we not have a central, it's a central legislation which is incorporated by central government. So what is the logic of having 5 zonal offices? Can we not have a central portal like GST and all the applicants apply for one central portal?
So it's the same logic why we have different high courts. Okay. Why can't we have one high court? Right. So it's just to like distribute matters to different offices so that the workload can be distributed.
Got it.
That's it. It's also easier for people to go to, because there are hearings as well. So if there's just one central office, then everyone will be forced to travel a lot, and so there are different jurisdictions. So each corner of India has one office for that matter.
Thank you. So now I'll take.
GST came up in an era when internet was there. Whereas this is lot before the internet came in picture.
This is the Act of 1999, not before.
1999.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ram. So thank you. I'll take some questions from the chat box. First question is from our ex-10 members. Sandhya, good to see you, Sandhya. Her question: she is running a company called Exceedibles. I might be wrong in pronunciation the name. She is into leadership, student leadership coach. What are the chances that her company name gets registered as a trademark?
Do you want to take this?
Yeah. So Sandhya, actually, can you explain us how did you come up with the name Exceedible? I mean, sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong, but how did you come up with the name? What does it mean? Does it mean something? Because it's not a word in the English dictionary.
Sandhya, you need to unmute yourself. Sandhya, unmute yourself.
Okay. Yep. Thanks. Thank you, Mangesh. Exceedible means well in the dictionary, if you look for something starting with EXCEEDIBLE, that means the ability to perform beyond expectations.
Right. So,
and the reason why I chose this was because during my corporate career, before I started my ventures and stuff, I was complimented with this word.
So it is an English dictionary word, or it's a word that you have invented?
It is in the dictionary, but it starts with E. I dropped the E and I maintained the X. I started it from the X.
Right. So I'll tell you a background for everybody. This will help you all that why the trademark law says that your word can't describe your services, because as Vanshul shared, right, Mango Wala. Suppose if the trademark registry allows somebody to use Mango Wala or Mango, then other businesses will get affected, right? They can't use that word. So that's why they have this law, which they say that you can't use a word that describes a business, because then other businesses, how will they describe their business and use that word? Otherwise, you'll go against them saying that this is my mark. How did you use that word? But that doesn't mean that you can't register the word you just told us, because even if it is slightly descriptive, the law allows us to register it if we can prove that, okay, I have been in a business for a few years, and all my customers, when they hear this name, they identify me. They don't identify the word in the English dictionary, they identify my company. And if you show that, then your mark can be registered. So for that, you definitely have to show that, okay, this is my website, these are my marketing collaterals, so many people are my clients. All my clients, when they hear this name and they see this logo, they identify me. And therefore, this mark should be registered, even though it may be, like as you said, it's an English dictionary word, but you've removed the E and put an X, right? So you have changed it a bit. Yeah.
Yes. So it's since 2019, and without knowing this background or without knowing the technical thing that you just explained, Srishti, I've been promoting myself on the internet as Exceedible Sandhya. So I've used that as a prefix to my name itself.
So if you show all that to the registry, then they would accept your application. If you show how your customers identify you by that name. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Sandhya.
Thank you. Thank you, Srishti. Thank you, Mangesh.
Next question we have on Chairman Rahul.
Yeah. Srishti, the question is, I'm into diamond manufacturing and retailing, real diamond jewelry. I have just started my own diamond brand by name of my own name, Rahul Amrute. So my logo says RA. Down below, I have my name, complete name, Rahul Amrute, written in a particular way. My tagline is diamonds personified. So can I do it whole as a logo trademark, or diamonds personified, my tagline will not be included because it has diamonds word in it?
So to be honest, like there was one more client that they were selling Sindhi food, and they had something tagline to do with Sindhi food, or they were using. So it did come, the registry did object that, your tagline is describing your service. But then for that, we need to show to the registry that, no, this tagline, my customers actually identify with me, and, I have such goodwill, or I have evidence to show that when they hear diamonds personified, they just think of my company and nothing else. So it is a bit difficult, but it is not impossible to get registered.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
So Vanshit, next question is from Rohit Mishra. His question is, what are the advantages and disadvantages of registering his TM class 99?
Okay, so I'll just for a common understanding for everyone, class 99 would mean that you do different things. Let's say you sell clothes, you sell jewelries, you are into automobile industry. So when you do different things, when you sell different things, you register it under class 99. There are different classes, but then when there are multiple classes, it's called class 99. Okay. Now, one advantage of such a filing is that you only need to file it once. Okay. The fee remains the same. Everything else remains the same. The identification of the goods or services remains the same. It's just that all your goods, all your classes will come under one application. Now, the disadvantage over here is, which we always advise our clients to not file it in class 99, file it in different applications, because the government cost remains the same, right? The demerit of this particular strategy is that in case your mark is objected in one class, the whole application will stop at that moment, at that time. Okay. Now let's say that I have an X brand and I sell shoes. Okay. But I'm also selling shirts under the same brand. Okay. Now there is an entity who is selling shoes, which is very similar to my name. Okay. Now the registry will object my mark because of that entity, because that entity is selling shoes. But my application for my shirt will also stop over there only. Like it'll pause until this goes forward. So it's always advisable to file different applications so that if one class is objected, the others can go forward.
Next question is from our social media expert. Ram, you can just unmute and ask your question.
Pankaj, I think my question was, similar to what he had already asked. I didn't know the technical word is class 99. My question was that if I am into digital marketing services, and we have a logo and we have the name site to host. If we were to register this, would it be that, for education segment, do I need to register it separately, or if some competitor comes, can he register it there if I've not registered it already over there? But having heard your answer, the only thing I want to ask now is, can I even without getting into the other service as of today, can I go and register under multiple classes on day one itself, even though I might be working only on one of the segments at this point of time, but I just want to ensure that even the other classes, no one is able to take it up.
Right. So there is a concept of proposed to be used. Okay. Now proposed to be used would donate that I know that I want to use this brand. I know that what I'm going to use this brand on, but I'm unsure as to when will I commence business under this brand. Okay. So there are two concepts here. One is proposed to be used and one is use. Okay. Use is when you already started using, right? Use is when you have a date, you have proof to show that you've already using this particular brand from so and so date. Proposed to be used with respect to your question will be that I have thought of this brand, thought of the services, but I'm not sure when I have to start using the brand. So yes, to answer your question, yes, you can file an application on the basis of proposed use and go forward with the application.
Yes.
Thank you, Ventus. Yeah.
Srishti
Questions
has
I'll take
something to
last.
add, I
Yeah,
think.
last two questions. Yes, Sushi.
Yeah, I just want to add to
Yeah,
Ram Kumar's question. I think he had a question that if I have registered, say, in digital services, and can somebody use the same name for some other services, say financial services or some goods? So that is actually correct, because if you don't register in different classes and if you don't have a business in those sectors, then somebody else can actually use the same name or similar name and start using it. So if you are thinking of, later on expanding in that business, so it's better that, as Vanchit shared, that's proposed to be used. And also one thing to keep in mind is that if you register for proposed to be used, it's important that in 5 years, you start using that mark, right? If you don't use the mark, then maybe somebody can object to your registration saying that they have, registered it, but they're not using it. So cancel their registration. So
Yeah.
that is an important thing to keep in mind.
Thank you, Susri. So Ventus, I'll take last two questions. Very interesting question from Mr. Bikram. Okay, his question is, what if someone decide not to use the brand name and doesn't renew the mark? You said that the validity is of 10 years. Can a competitor of the same company apply for the same brand in case of non-renewal of the brand by the existing lawful owner of that brand?
So if your mark is not renewed, if the registration is lapsed, then of course they can apply and get a registration. You get a window of a year, 6 months before the mark, 6 months before the period of 10 years will get over. The portal opens for renewal. After that, you have a buffer period of 6 months again, for which you have to pay an additional cost. So you have that 1 year to renew your mark. After that, the mark will be abandoned and anyone can file an application for it.
Okay. We have a question. He has raised the hand. Star, his screen name is Star. Question is, how can we find our proprietor code in the trademark registry?
Proprietor code?
Yes.
Can you elaborate on this?
I don't. His question,
hello.
I think so. Yeah.
Unmuted. Hi.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm Viren Vora here.
Hi, Mr. Vora.
Yeah, hello. Generally, any registered trademark or when we file any application, there is a proprietor code which we read in the receipt. So that is a code for one individual person assigned by the trademarks registry. And the same code is to be used while filing another second application. So this is the proprietor code is an important code. So how do we find what is my code?
So proprietor code would, so if you filed it yourself, you haven't hired any agent or attorney, then at that moment you receive a proprietor code. And the proprietor code must be given in your TMA, which is trademark application. If you log in to through your account from which you filed an application, did you file a hard copy file? Did you do a hard copy filing or an online filing?
No, hard copy filing.
Hard copy filing. So you must have received a receipt from the registry, right?
Yes.
And you have received the certificate as well?
Yeah, we received the registration certificate and all that process is done. But
yes,
it's about proprietor code. Sometimes I find that some other proprietor code is mentioned on the receipt. So in the website, trademarks website, do we have your KYC? Can we find our KYC? What is the proprietor code? What is the name mentioned, registered in which name? Through the proprietor code, it's a particular number.
So there is one way that you can know the proprietor code, wherein you will be able to search on the registry. When you log into the registry, there is a trademark toggle. You need to take the cursor over there, and then there is a proprietor search on that particular thing. Okay. When you do the proprietor search, just type in your name and the captcha. So now the problem with this can be that names are very common these days, right? And there you might find 2-3 pages of the same of different marks, but with the same name.
Okay. Yeah.
Then you will, it is a little tedious process. But then when you file the mark, at that time you must have received, like the registry must have given you a receipt. That receipt's number, the proprietor number must be mentioned in that receipt.
The whole idea is like if I have like 10 to 12 trademarks registered, the whole idea is if I want to see how many trademarks are showing reflecting in the database.
Yes. So
that's
as
the
I
whole
told
idea.
you, yes, as I told you, just follow the process. Log into the trademark registry's website. Go to the trademark toggle. Check where the registered proprietor link is, and just type in your name, type in the captcha. You'll get all the marks.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Can I ask one more questions?
Yes, please, sure.
We are into exports of food items and spices. So someone told us that you need to file, other than class 30 and class 29, we need to file under class 35 as well, which is a services class. So is it necessary to file two TM applications for one trademark, which falls for spices, which is in class 30? So do I need to file in class 35 as well?
So 35 is for business services, business administration. Since you own a business, class 35 is a major class. Okay. But you will have to specify what you do. Always see, since you are an export company, it becomes all the more important for you to register it in class 35, because your brand goes outside as well. Other people also know about your brand. So in order to safeguard your rights, and in order to get a holistic protection for your brand, it will be advisable to file it under class 35 as well for the specific business that you do.
Yeah, thank you, Vences. Thank you, Mr. Bhavin. We'll take last question. Unfortunately, due to paucity of time, we'll not be able to take all the questions. I'll request participant Vanshaj and Shruti has already shared their email ID on chat box. If you have any questions, you can directly send them on an email. Vanshaj, this is the last question. Okay, this in case of an infringement of the copyright which is copied by the other company. So how fast an injunction order can be obtained by the civil court? And can you share one of the example wherein you had obtained the injuncted order?
With respect to how fast an injunction order can be taken, it totally depends on the facts and circumstances of the particular case. However, there are possibilities, and we have worked towards it. I was involved in one of the matters wherein we were able to get an injunction in the first hearing itself.
Okay.
Yes, but there are chances that the other party is given a chance to speak up, and so it totally depends on the facts and circumstances of the particular case. But yes, if you ask if there is a possibility, then yes, there is a possibility.
Okay, thank you, Vences.
Yeah,
yes, Sushri.
As Vanshaj shared, I think injunction, it depends on the number of hearings, but definitely in like 3 to 4 hearings we have seen in our experience that the court grants an injunction. And also, if you press urgency, then in the first hearing also there's something called ad interim injunction, where basically like before your injunction application is decided, the court is saying, okay, during this time the defendant is stopped for like say 2 3 months till I decide the injunction.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you'll be barred from using that disputed logo.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sushri. Over to you, Rahul.
Yeah, thank you, Mangesh. I would request all the participants to be connected for next just 2 to 3 minutes. We'll be ending the session after that. So, कुछ तो लोग कहेंगे, लोगों का काम है कहना. So today, Srishti and Vanshaj has done total justice to this new tagline given by Manoj, our secretary. So, as a third person, before handing over for the formal vote of thanks, as a third person observing this presentation from the visitor's point of view, I would like to congratulate Vanshaj and Srishti for a very lucid, insightful, clear, crisp presentation. So it was very knowledgeable for all of us. And one compliment to you, Vanshaj, I think you have a very mesmerizing voice, with a lot of depth in it. So voiceover can be a good profession for you other than what you're doing right now. No
Thank you.
jokes.
Thank
I'm
you, sir.
requesting you to pursue it in that way.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So over to you, Ram, for the official vote of thanks.
Thank you. For all those who don't know, Vansaj is also a food blogger. He is active on Instagram in that particular aspect, but I think he can always take up one more line of activity with his baritone voice. Having said so, thank you, Shrishti, thank you, Vansaj, for coming over and sharing a very wonderful presentation on trademark laws. It is a subject which is very important for all business owners, but at the same time, I think something which has been least understood and least implemented by most of the business owners out there. We thank you for presenting it in a very lucid way. The entire aspects, keeping the presentation light, even though it's a very technical topic at the end of the day, which leaves the people more confused at times. And that is where most of them haven't taken those steps to get themselves registered or something like that. But with your presentation today, I'm sure that many of them over here will take those steps forward to go and get their trademark done and protect their brand and then grow their business accordingly. Thank you so much once again.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Ram. So
Rahul, just I'm not actually one interesting question I want to ask with your kind permission, Rahul.
Yeah, please.
I'm not. Vanshaj, why the original owner of Maganlal Chikkiwala had not filed for the trademark? This is a question I'm asking because as a person, as a buyer, everybody is using that we are the genuine Maganlal Chikki seller.
You should actually ask Maganlal.
So I think as Vansaj said, no, Maganlal has become now generic word. Everybody says Chikki Lana, Maganlal Chikki Lana, like, Maganlal Wale ki Chikki Lana Lonavala say. So now it's become like generic. They have forgotten that it is a brand owner and a business owner.
And I'll also interject with an interesting example. I'm from North, and everyone knows about the Agra ka Petha, right? So everyone knows it's famous in the entire world, definitely in the entire nation. But when you go there, when you visit Agra, you will find the Agra ka Petha everywhere. Okay, number one. Now, there was this one entity who actually got Agra ka Petha famous, right? Which is Panchi Petha. Okay. Now, Panchi Petha, when you visit Agra, you will find a Panchi Petha every 10 meters in Agra. Okay. Now, it will be very difficult for you to understand which one is the one, right? So,
same like in Lonavala, every second shop is saying that we are the original Maganlal Chikkiwalas.
Exactly. So it was important for them to protect themselves at that point of time. But since they were not able to, this is where it led to them. So
also one interesting fact is that, so in trademark law, if you don't go and oppose or object to the other person using that Maganlal, then the law will assume that you're okay with multiple people using Maganlal. So if Maganlal was smart enough to go against people who were using Maganlal Chikkiwala from first time, first time they started using, then he would not have been in this situation.
Thank you, Sushi. Over to you, Ram.
The best thing is to do it as soon as possible and stop from us being Maganlals, the next Maganlal.
Yes.
So I will do the concluding remarks now. So friends, what you saw today is what 10 members share every week. Positive energy, knowledge about what's happening in the industry, support to any operational problem that is beyond our domain expertise, opportunity to learn from and mentor fellow entrepreneurs. An added benefit is a chance to attract a lot of business. So who should join 10 and why? Budding or established entrepreneurs are welcome to join 10. 10 is committed to support, promote, and develop entrepreneurs, and our activities are focused on building the entrepreneurial community. So please take a call on becoming a part of 10. Annual membership is rupees 15,000 and one-time registration fee of rupees 2,000. For any further membership queries, you can contact Mangesh Patole. I think his number was flashed on the chat box. So thank you all for attending and making a positive contribution to the meeting. And we'll conclude the meeting by thanking the speakers today, Srishti and Vanshaj. So thank you all, the participants also for making it big today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vanshaj and Srishti. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.